Good afternoon, and welcome to this virtual session on the pandemic and how do we go about managing our business during this time and beyond. And I hope everyone is indoors and keeping safe. And I know, words like unprecedented, pandemic, flattening the curve, etc., have all become part of everyone's vocabulary today. Um, and interestingly, we've been talking of disruption, digital transformation, omni-channel commerce, the new normal, and so on and so forth for some time. And lately, we've been speaking about the new commerce order. But what's interesting is what's happened over the past 3-4 weeks. No one expected these concepts to go viral, no, all pun intended. And suddenly, everyone has been thrown across the boundary, and some hard decisions need to be taken. Vikas, you just joined?
Yes.
Fantastic. Um, so experts truly believe that this is a significant black swan event, and we are able to successfully counter the consequences in due time. And retail is an important sector in India. 10% of GDP is accounted for by retail, and about 8% of the employment. So a crucial sector by all standards. And with retail having touched about $1 trillion in market size, with e-commerce contributing about $65 billion, I guess we were on the upswing, and then this thing happened. To understand the impact of the pandemic in terms of how retail organizations have kind of mutated or transformed to manage things now, as well as to understand how they're planning to conduct operations in the post-pandemic world, I have with me experienced business and business technology leaders for the next 120 minutes, trying to decode the present and hopefully chart the course for the immediate future. Now, I'll just kind of give you a very, very quick introduction to the folks that we have on the panel who will keep us company and tell us about how we are going to go about managing the business in today's world. Join me in welcoming Vikas Bagaria. He's the founder of PSafe. Because I guess your brand is about 7 years old now, and it was built with the plan to empower our women with good health and easy hygiene solutions. So welcome to the talk. And we look forward to hearing some interesting stuff from you.
Thanks for having me.
Great. And I'd like to also welcome Yogesh Chaudhary, the director at Jaipur Rugs. And Jaipur Rugs, incidentally, was born in about 1978, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a company with a long history, and is one of India's largest manufacturers of hand-knotted rugs. 20+ branches, 6 states, 600 villages. Now, the reason why I'm reading out these numbers is because what's impacting them and what they impact is a lot of numbers at the grassroots, with an independent base of over 40,000 artisans with whom they work. Yogesh, I hope I'm not way off the mark as far as the numbers are concerned.
No, you're absolutely bang on.
Thank you. And I'm sure this pandemic would have impacted you, and you're looking forward to leveraging the opportunities that this incident has thrown up. So we look forward to hearing from you as well.
Thank you.
And next in line is Shreyansh Surana, who is a director at Style Bazaar, a name to reckon with in the eastern part of the country. They also work a lot with the local communities in small, medium, and large-scale enterprises, and they have about 80-odd stores in 7 states. Again, a retailer who works with the local communities a lot. So we'll get to hear a lot from him in terms of what this pandemic actually means to him from an operations perspective, and would be great to pick his brains in terms of how he's planning to look at the next 3, 6, or 9 months. So welcome, Shreyansh.
Thank you.
Then from across, from the Gulf, from the GCC, is Piyush Chauhan, who is the Group CIO at Lulu Group. Piyush, thanks for joining in. You will bring in obviously a different geo perspective, as well as a perspective of how a group like Lulu, with its massive interest in varied fields like hypermarkets, malls, trading, shipping, distribution, travel, tourism, hotels. I mean, the list is endless. It'll be great to hear from you as to how you folks are looking at this pandemic from a hypermarket level to start with, from a Lulu hypermarket level to start with, and from a larger group perspective as well. So thanks for joining in. And we also have Mr. Prashant Tandon, who is the chief at 1MG. Again, Prashant, I guess 1MG is about 7 years old, kind of, and I don't want to call it a 7-year itch right now, but then very, very, incidental that we are in 2020 right now. And 1MG, I guess, started business with Ayush products to start with, and diversified into lab tests and multiple other areas. And I guess because you belong to a sector which has been predominantly active even during this time, I'm sure there's a lot to learn from you. So we look forward to having a wonderful conversation with you, Prashant.
Yes, sir.
Last but not the least, we have Naveen Joshua, who is the chief at Green Honchos, and Green Honchos is our partner for getting this virtual session across. Thank you so much, Naveen, for your interest and for your contribution. And like I said, very interestingly, one of the key points or one of the banners for your businesses is your Commerce 2020 ready. With 2020 and is Commerce ready, we'll figure out. So look forward to having a wonderful chat with you.
Sure. Thanks. Looking forward.
Excellent. We will in the due course of the next 1.5 to 2 hours have a few other folks joining in. We are looking at Soumya from Clovia, who's a co-founder at Clovia.com. We are looking at Anil Shankar, who heads technology at Shopperstore, and Mr. Vikram Idnani, who heads technology at Reliance Retail. We are just hoping that these folks have had multiple assignments, and it's been very busy time for them as well. And they're trying to see if they can squeeze in at least 10 or 15 or 20 minutes to join us on this discussion here today. So till they come in, I think we are good enough. And just to start off, if we look at it anecdotally, it looks as if we are in a BCAC scenario right now. Like I said, this time on Earth, or this time for us is a huge time. It is a point of inflection. We are looking at a before Corona and an after Corona period. And over the next 150 minutes or so, what we shall do is we shall try to understand from you folks as to how are you managing the current situation and how are you looking at the future once we get back to normal, as and when we do that. So to start with, if I can ask you, Prashant, you belong to an industry, you belong to a category which is open, which is alive, which is part of essential items, and is actually pretty crucial for the population in this country. If you were to describe COVID-19 pandemic in one word in terms of affecting your business, what would that be? Prashant, can you hear me?
Prashant is on mute.
Hey, yeah, sorry. So what I was saying was one word is a little difficult, but if I were to put it in a small sentence, then it's a structurally positive disruption for health.
Structurally positive disruption. Shreyank, how has it panned out for you?
I think according to us, our team, we think this is a catastrophe for our businesses because we are in a physical retail model. So there are lots of overheads that we have to incur on regular basis. So for us, in one word, it will be a catastrophe, and we are re-engineering ourselves. There will be two words rather.
So you're taking this opportunity to kind of re-engineer yourself and your business. Okay, and how you're planning to do that? We shall delve into a little detail. Obviously, you can let us into as many secrets as you can possibly give, within the ambit of making sure that you're on the right track. Naveen, how have things been for you?
I think one word would be challenging because, like most of us, it's the first time. So balance people, business, customers. I think it's all pretty much wartime leadership because very short spurts. So we are taking it as it comes.
Good. And Yogesh, how has this pandemic? What does this pandemic mean to you in one word?
Well, I think I would use the word disaster primarily because our main market is global. So we sell in 60 countries and that's kind of come to zero, which has never happened before. So, yeah.
And it's truly unprecedented in that sense, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And you have a large distribution base in Atlanta, right? And is that closed or is it still operational?
It's operational by 10%.
Okay. Okay. But obviously, you're looking at this period to sharpen your strategies around what you will do post the pandemic, right?
Oh, 100%. I think every business has to reinvent itself now. So,
sure, we'll get to that in due time.
Siju, 1 second,
Yeah.
I would want to interrupt. I think Vikas can't hear us. Some of them can't hear us properly. So, will all of us try to speak a little closer to the mic? Yeah. There's some voice crack that's happening. I think the network issue is there. So, yeah.
Okay, because are you not able to hear me specifically or anyone?
No, I think the voice is cracking. Is it for me or it's for everyone actually? I can hear in bits and pieces though.
Okay. Okay. So I know these are obviously known challenges. Let's see. We'll kind of tide over them as we come along. So just to shout out in case I'm not clear or I'm not audible. Okay. So Piyush, lastly from you, how has this pandemic impacted you? You're from GCC. You're based in Dubai. So how does this translate for you?
So if you were to ask me in terms of a couple of words, I would say it is a rejuvenating disruption. For some, I think the word disruption was heard for the last 10 years because of digital and things like that. And some people thought that it will come, I have time. It is still okay for me to not get hugely impacted by it. But now this has kind of put the whole digital piece on the face of it, and then kind of made this disruption so relevant as to how you want to make your businesses agile and how you make sure that you are ready to kind of take on any surprises to your business models, to your people structures, to your so on and so forth. And I think that is the biggest thing that we see here. And we will kind of subsequently talk on how people are looking at it and how I see things will change and shape up in the coming days and years.
Perfect. In fact, yeah, that's what I started my session with saying, we've been talking about digital disruption, we've been talking about digital transformation, and now suddenly, pun intended, everything is viral, right? I mean, these words are viral now, in a certain sense. So yeah, it's a disruption, it's a disaster, unmitigated, I don't know, but it is a disaster, catastrophic according to some folks, but definitely I think we are all agreeing on the fact that this is the time to re-engineer ourselves, re-engineer the components of business. This is a time for us to dig our heels in, probably look at how we are conducting business across multiple dimensions, and craft a strategy that will be a little more panic-proof as we go along. So now that we've got a sense in terms of what you folks believe this disaster to mean for you at a business level, it is obvious that the COVID-19 and the resultant lockdown has impacted business in terms of pure sales in a very disruptive manner. What has been your singular biggest challenge on the following fronts? Let's say, for example, if I take sales and order placing by customers, has it been seamless? You've always had a customer order facing or a customer order scenario or portal or system. Given the scenario that we are in today, how do you think it has impacted you? Of course, some businesses have closed down. Some businesses are not open for business at all. But then some, like on the essentials like grocery, medicine, they are all on. So Piyush, if you could tell me, the customer facing part of your business, are you satisfied with the way it has shaped up to manage the challenges of the pandemic?
I would say to a greater extent, yes. Obviously, there are three things which are now being considered mostly as essential services. Obviously, food being one of them, medical service being one of them, and then emergency services like all your cleaning stuff, all your kind of government machinery and things like that. And I would say this has kind of shaken up all the three essential services, and all the three have actually, till date, I would say, lived up to the expectation. Nobody is running out of food. Nobody is kind of in a situation in which if they want medical help, there is somebody to look after. Whether the magnitude is enough or not is a question, but everybody is able to get the basic essential stuff. Now, if somebody was looking for a particular kind of a French loaf, which he or she used to get every day in the morning, maybe that is not available, but that's okay. And what we are seeing is that the behavior of the customer has changed drastically. Earlier, people were very choosy and picky in terms of their baskets. Now it is all going to be very, 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 very simple baskets. And if I were to give some example on our website, we used to run about at one point of time 35,000 SKUs. Yeah, I'm talking only grocery at this point of time. Yeah. And what we did analysis is that as the panic started, we could bring that basket size or that assortment to less than 300 SKUs. Yeah, it is just this 300 SKUs which were doing 80 to 85% of the business. So your 30-35% SKUs to 300 SKUs is able to service to most of the thing, and nobody's complaining till now. Yeah, some people may be not having the best dressing, or some people may not be having the best jam which they used to have on regular times, but they are still not complaining. That 80% is what we were able to very, very quickly organize. And obviously there was a big bit of a strain on the back-end supply chain to make sure that this 80% is something that we need to stock up. And so we went out, we've basically looked at various opportunities where we can start sourcing, and those timely manner of getting those supply chains organized was something which is very, very crucial at this point of time. So once those things are set up, I think that is the reason why you see that the food supply chain as such is not still crumbling down. Till touchwood, I would say, people are still able to get access to food. People are still able to get access to whatever is needed and essential to keep it running during this kind of testing times.
So customer preference obviously has moved on from the discretionary items to more essentials, non-discretionary ones, right? Which are mandatory, and that's why the breadth of merchandise is low. But then I'm sure the volumes would have gone up in those categories.
Volumes have gone up. I would not say gone up as such, but what obviously now the customer is asking is how can I get it right at my doorstep, and which is where the whole funda of digital comes in. And we have been seeing, I would say.
So I'll come to that, Piyush. I'll come to that because that's something that I want to touch upon, differently and separately, right? So thanks, Piyush, for that. And Prashant, from your perspective, obviously you are in that category where customers are going to reach out to you for orders. So how do you see your customer facing order taking scenarios or order taking systems?
So on the demand side for both pharmacy and e-consultations, we are seeing a significant demand. So the more customers are looking for those solutions. So from the customer perspective, I think the awareness and the value proposition of e-commerce for healthcare services is actually very, very high right now. The challenge for us is more on the supply chain side and logistics, especially when it comes to intercity or interstate movement of goods. That is something that is getting better every day, but we're still not fully up to speed. So if you look at our business, the demand is significantly high. Our capacity or ability to serve is getting better every day, but it's still not there to fulfill the new demand.
Yeah, I mean, this pandemic scenario has obviously thrown up a highly polarized set of options out here. One where there's a lot of demand and you're wondering as to how do you do deliveries, and on the other side you got a lot of stuff you don't know what to do with it. So can understand that. Now, Naveen, is this your "I told you so" moment?
Sorry, you'll have to repeat that, please.
No, what I meant is this your moment when you actually want to go back to retailers and say, you know what, I told you so. Get your e-commerce ready, get your omni-channel ready, get the front end ready. Is this your "I told you so" moment?
Not the right time for it to be tongue in cheek. We were discussing earlier. One of our key pitch points as e-commerce enablers is to push towards e-commerce readiness this year. But when we were suggesting that, little did we know that there would be a further effect in the connotation for this buzzword called a new norm. As Mr. Chauhan was saying, I think we were all feeling a rejuvenation of saying, okay, it's going to happen, but there was no kind of a stop dead. But now it's not even a question of if, neither is it a question of when. It is a point of now, and what that now means is really investing in the technology platforms and rethinking digital. So more than an "I told you so" moment, it is more a plea than anything else that says now. So if that helps clarify.
Sure, I wasn't trying to put you on a tight spot. I mean, I can understand where you're coming from. Now from a staffing perspective, obviously one of the biggest challenges that enterprises of all color, of all hues, of all sizes are facing is on the staffing front, right? So for someone like Shreyans and Shansh and Yogesh, how are you folks managing staffing, especially when it's a literal dead stop for a business as a whole?
Actually, in our case, we've got around 3,000 staffs in tier 2, tier 3 cities of the town, where 70% of the staffs are just a team members, a routine team member who does a store work. So right now, what we are doing is that we are telling our area managers and all the managers to make them learn and give them some learning and development programs that we have designed for them. Our backend team is designing a learning and development program for them, and are through the online, through WhatsApp, through regular Zoom video meetings, they are executing the same. Because we are in a standstill position right now, because everything is shut down, and because our retail is mainly dependent on the cash flows, and the cash flow has been shut down from I think 15th of this month itself. So as of now, we are just working on increasing efficiency in all the aspects.
But how do you do this L&D? How do you do this learning and development, especially when there is this whole concept of social distancing, and folks are actually going back to the places that they came from. So this 3,000 odd staff that you have, 70% of it, which is about 2,100, let's say, our staff, our store staff, right? Our store sales staff. So where are they housed? How do you make sure that this L&D reaches them? Do you leverage any system per se, or how is it?
What we right now are doing is that we, as you have said that right before that, we were not focusing on online that much, but as the need of time is there. So what we have done is that our backend team, HR and the operation team, has designed some presentations for them, and what they are doing is that they are making a cluster. It's a small clusters. Every area manager are having 8 to 10 stores within them, and they are teaching their store managers about a particular topic, whether it's a HR, or it will be regarding product, or it will be regarding marketing, catchment analysis, any stuff. So what they are doing is that they are preparing a presentation for them, and then they are telling to those 8 people. Again, that 8 people are telling to their team leaders, and that is the way it is flowing. Obviously, everyone is not having the Android phone or the phone that they can go and do the live video on that. But still, the people who are able to do that, they are able to manage, and who are not able to do that, then they are just doing a con call and they are explaining them the stuff.
No, I'm glad, Shreyans, to hear this, that you are effectively using this period to kind of ramp up your sales force in terms of their knowledge. I think we as retail leaders, we've been pretty guilty of always talking about how important the sales guy is at the store, but I don't think we've really walked the talk in terms of enabling them with all the necessary stuff, right? I think probably this is a good time to redeem ourselves and make sure they get up to speed with the knowledge that they should have to manage the merchandising customers as well. I think that's a good step, Shreyans. Yogesh, from your perspective, how are you looking at staffing? How it's a big problem for you as well, like you clearly mentioned, right? This is a disaster, and business has come to a complete stop. So how do you leverage this particular time that you have?
Yeah, so we have two kinds of people who work for us. One are the people who are working from their homes in the villages. So now in these are mostly our weavers, and some of the weavers who were recently started weaving carpets still have work to do. So they're engaged, and they're not going to have a loss of pay. I'm sorry, but the other ones who kind of almost finished the carpets, and we're not able to move any material, are definitely going to suffer. So a lot of the women who work from their homes are dependent on our business for their income. So we're really trying to figure out ways on how we can help, and we've been in touch with them to see if anybody needs anything. One of our goals is also to create a fund for these weavers wherever there's a little bit of problem, to ensure that we can respond to the weavers quickly in the 600 villages that we work around in the country. On the other hand, we have branch offices and our head office where we have almost 600-800 people on the rolls. And here, obviously, it's been a big challenge, obviously, because all our stores and offices and production centers are closed. So yeah, we've been, like you just said that, we're also trying to virtually manage as much as we can. So we have regular team meetings, and our digital and online teams are still pretty active to see what they can do to still make sure that during these times also we can be active with our customers.
Yeah, and Yogesh, my sense is that amongst all of us who are there on the call today, you will probably be the most impacted because the number of artisans that you work with, which is 40,000, and the social strata of these artisans. You will also have to keep in mind the business continuity after things come back to normal, right? You'll have to keep the flock together in a certain sense.
Correct.
So it's pretty challenging that way. So what are your initial thoughts in terms of how do you keep the flock together? How do you make sure that you're back to at least 80% of your staffing strength when things stabilize?
I think the most important for us is the sales side. So the United States, unfortunately, which is our core market, is struggling tremendously. Now, we manufacture for a lot of very large companies in the United States, and we're I would say quite dependent on them doing well. So, I think it's going to be important to see how long this lasts, and hopefully if we can recover quickly, I think we should also be able to recover quickly enough, and we hope that happens.
Okay. And so staying with you, what about the stocks that you have? What about the inventory that you have? How much of inventory do you typically carry?
We actually carry huge inventory. So our key model has been carrying a lot of inventory and distributing it globally. So our inventories are more than 200 crores, for a small size business like ours. So obviously that's something that we've been learning, that, our model, we almost have to rethink our model on how we can make it more efficient, and we need to rethink the way we do business to, make sure that next time a slowdown or something goes wrong, we are better prepared to weather the bad times.
Yeah, you could probably have to rethink on your markets as well, right? A singular dependence on the US as a market is obviously hurting you now.
Absolutely.
And so from an inventory perspective, Piyush, yours is a large group. Yours is a huge group, and you run the largest hypermarket chain in GCC. So how are you managing inventories? How is the inventory scenario at your end?
Yeah, so if you would understand the geography of this region produces almost nothing. Yeah, so this is all dependent on 100% imports. Apart from a few carrots and cucumbers that they grow here, everything else is imported out from all over the world, and it is all across, right? So it is maybe from the Asian region, maybe from the European, maybe from, and you need to understand the demographic of this land as well, in terms of there are population of almost more than 100 countries who reside here, which will all have different tastes, different choices, different food habits, and so on and so forth. So for a food retailer, it becomes very difficult to make sure that you are trying to cater to everybody's need. And that is why when you go into any of the stores here, you would see there would be a East Asian section, there would be a Japanese section, there would be a Filipino section, there would be an Indian section. And as you move along, there would be a South American section, there would be a European section, and so there would be these kind of mix of products that you need to stock to cater to the needs of the people here. And that diverse supply chain is what I think there are only few groups in this region who can cater to that kind of supply chain. Luckily, we have sourcing offices in about 22 countries. The challenge was, as the situation developed, the kind of obviously through ship or through sea, getting stuff would not have made any sense. And with the airlines closing, it posed double whammy on how can you source stuff. And that is when I think your ability to bring in your best sourcing guys, talk to the relevant government authorities, talk to the relevant folks in the administration, and how can you mobilize that to make sure that those essential quantities are still brought from all over the world. And I think we, luckily, I would say we were able to sense the urgency of the situation, put in a very, very strong disaster management team, which worked kind of almost 24/7 for a few days, worked with various government agencies, worked with various, and we basically were able to significantly expand our warehousing capacity overnight. As you would say, we are now 3x the warehouse capacity or storing capacity which we had before Corona. And all this happened within matter of hours and days. Yeah, whereas in normal situation, these kind of decisions and activities would have taken months and years for somebody to build it. How can you scrape up some empty warehouse in any part of the country? How can you convert that overnight into a storing location? How can you put in ACs so that I can use that for chilling sections, cold sections, and so on? So I think everybody worked on a very, very war footing to make sure that a country like this, which is so dependent on imports, and if those imports were to cut off because of the travel restriction and the kind of mobility that it was able to get during normal times, that has actually saved. And today, if you see most of the supermarkets here, I would not say just us, I think most of the big supermarkets here, they're not still running out of food. Yeah, although it is all dependent on global supply chains. So that way, I think it has happened well. Obviously, there is other part of non-discretionary spend which is there, which is hit hard. And for all good reasons, we hope that if we keep the lights on during this tough time with grocery and food, and if we are able to overcome this, everybody will spring back and come back to normal.
No, I think it's been phenomenal on the part of folks like you, and I'm sure even Carrefour does that in Dubai, in terms of maintaining stocks for groceries and perishables, and especially when about 95%, 98% is imported, right? 50 different kinds of cheese. You get the population used to 50 different kinds of cheese, and then suddenly you'll have to make sure that it remains even through this time. I think yes, and the fact that you could actually enhance your warehousing capacity by 3x is phenomenal. Obviously, there's a lot of muscle behind it. And my suggestion here is, Yogesh, once we are back to normal and Piyush doesn't know what to do with the 3x warehousing capacity, I'm sure he could lend his warehousing facilities for your inventory. So it could be a new line of business for Lulu. So thanks for that, Piyush. Now, and coming from from an inventory perspective, Prashant, you obviously are in an enviable position of how do you satisfy demand? And that's a very enviable position to be in today. So how has been your inventory position? How has been your stock position? And have you been able to ramp up? Piyush moved down from about 35,000 SKUs to about 300 core SKUs to manage 80% of the demand. Did you see that kind of a skew happening at your end as well?
No, actually, in our sector, first of all, the industry, the distributors and local retailers typically operate at 20-25 days worth of inventory. So on a macro basis, the supply shocks will not be visible for the next week or so. So that's one part. The other thing is that there's a very polarized demand. Some things are really flying off and some things are no longer. So anything that is non-essential, or rather I shouldn't call non-essential, these are all medicines, but anything related to COVID, flu, everything that is just running out of stock a lot sooner, and the back-end supply chain is the concern that is coming in. So we are already in touch with most of the pharma companies to make sure that supplies are assured. I would say most of the inventory is actually accessible at this point, and most of the essentials, there's enough work in progress, at least with pharma, to figure out that happens. There are some structural issues though that the government will need to address, and we are engaging with them on that, which is that in our industry we have around 200,000 SKUs. So and if the doctor has said that, okay, for your condition, you need to take brand X. So unlike in grocery, where if you don't have a biscuit of brand A, then you take it of brand B, it doesn't matter. In medicines, it's prohibited to substitute with an alternate brand of exactly the same composition. So that is something that we are seeking relaxation from in this phase, because many smaller pharma companies have shut operations, many manufacturing locations are shut. We will have, although there would be, say, enough of atorvastatin in the market, but the atorvastatin that you are taking is out of stock now. But as a organized retailer, by law, we are not allowed to substitute. So those are the kind of, I would say, challenges in supply chain that we are engaging with the government on helping relax right now. And certainly need to make sure that the medicines, especially those in the cold chain, they are finding an assured supply chain to get to the consumer, because that is what is a concern right now.
So Prashant, a couple of things. Great to hear that your inventory situation is good, and because of the lead time that you have, it's manageable. Obviously, the backend tie up to the suppliers or the production houses is important. So pharma companies. Now you mentioned. So are you looking at are you seeing a possible scenario of India moving from a brand specific ecosystem to a generic ecosystem? Do you see that happening?
It's urgently important right now. Even if it is done for the short term, it's just so. Just to give you an example, somewhere between 10 to 20% of the orders we are not able to fulfill, just because that specific brand is not available. So now, if you do not have that brand, but that medicine is available in another brand, in this time, it's almost a no-brainer that we should be allowed to fulfill that need. Having said that, we are hopeful the government will listen. This is as good a time as any to make these structural changes, which have been in the works for a long time. So let's hope that because we are entering a new world where all these things should be considered very important.
No, so is this a government restriction, or is it a consumer reluctance?
The law doesn't allow. So while if you go to a local pharmacy, you can get a substitute or alternate brand, because there is no tracking, and when you are on a digital system, you have to make sure that every aspect of the law is followed. As per the law, as per the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, an alternate is not allowed. A generic substitute is not allowed. So but this is the time when it is necessary, because How otherwise 10-20% of the patients are not able to get their medicines right now.
Yeah, but having said that, assuming that the government kind of takes a short-term or God willing, a long-term decision towards this, don't you think that there is going to be a certain friction, resistance at a customer level as well? Because doctor ने ABC दिया है मुझे खाने के लिए,
which is fine.
आप मुझे
Which is fine.
XYZ बोल रहे हो.
I think as long as the customer has an ability to get it, and the customer is always free to get it, get the brand. Right now, the customer is not free to get it. So
Right.
if they tell us that, okay, my brand is not available, there's another one from Cipla available or Sun available or Merck available, give me that one, I'm okay with it. Still, he cannot get it. That is the challenge. So the customer, what will happen is doctor will still write a brand. Customer will largely follow the doctor's advice wherever feasible. In some cases, a customer may say that I believe an alternate brand is better for me. What happens sometimes is doctors write some brands, customers feel that is expensive and they just don't take the medicine. Now, if they find that they can actually save 60% and get the medicine, but in another brand, customer decision making will become more and more a part of it. But that's a longer term structural reform. Right now, I think it's an access issue. A person needs a medicine,
Right.
that brand is out of stock, person cannot go back to his doctor for a new prescription. What does that patient do? So it's kind of absolutely critical right now.
So obviously, from what I'm hearing from you, Prashant, this is a great opportunity for some structural reforms to come in, very, very short term, which is immediate term, and long term. But from
And
an
we've
immediate
already
term,
seen some. We've already seen some, like when the Prime Minister went on TV saying that if it's non-urgent care, don't put load on the hospital, just call your doctor. 3 days after, we had the telemedicine guidelines notified. So I think these are the times when and those telemedicine guidelines, it's not like it came overnight. They were being worked upon for the last 1 year. It's just that this situation necessitated that we need to move right now. So I think same is true for generic substitution. It has been in draft pharma policy since 2018. Now is the time to actually notify it, I believe.
So that's the silver lining in the whole big cloud cover that we have, I guess, right? So I hope. So who's working with the government from the pharma side of it? I mean, who is there an entity? Is there a body that's working with it?
It's a bunch of all the pharmacy players have become we collectively as a group engage with the folks, and there are empowered committees right now in the government for different parts. So we have shared that request that collectively, just between e-pharmacy on a daily basis, around somewhere between 5 to 10,000 patients are not getting medicines for this reason. Now, we need a fix right now. So we will keep engaging. I think there's a process of engaging, and we have our own group that engages in these discussions.
Works with them. Perfect. Obviously, one of the fallouts of high demand and panic is the presence of spurious alternatives.
Another fallout, actually very important fallout of all of this, is that the government is very actively engaging with the industry, at least like ours, that they want to figure out how can we debottleneck you so that you are able to supply to the consumer. So the ability of the government machinery to engage with entrepreneurs in our space and their willingness to listen and move is actually highest that we have seen. So those are silver linings of this phase that we feel some of these things will happen.
Which is very good to hear. And does this extend to spurious components as well? Because there seem to be a lot that's making the rounds these days.
So I think that requires a much more structural change. It won't happen during this phase. Having said that, the reality about spurious medicine is that they almost are never sold on bill. So as a consumer,
right,
you should always go through a platform or a pharmacy and insist you get a bill, because the law is very tight. If you are caught with spurious, the action will be strong. Having said that, you cannot be caught because you can easily deal in cash and write the bill on behind the brown paper, and that is kind of no trace that you bought it from this pharmacy on this date on this prescription. On digital platforms, anyway, we are bound by having all those audit trails end to end. From where did the medicine come? Where did it go? Patient made a complaint, investigation happened. You can trace it back. Now,
Sure.
So that is a structural reform. I don't expect that to come right now, but it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call that we need to set it up right now urgently. Otherwise, we will. So right now, as an ecosystem, we are not geared to. As an ecosystem, we are not geared to deal with that specific problem if it is happening.
And staying with you, Prashant, as an ecosystem, are you geared to cater to the last mile deliveries that obviously would have seen a huge spike?
Yeah, so we used to cover 25,000 pin codes in the country. Right now we are, so as of today, we are in 15,000 again. Having said that, all the deliveries are taking a lot more time. So we are ramping up, and we will be there probably in a couple of days.
And I suspect you'll probably see a kind of a transformation in this area of last mile deliveries as we go along at a macro level.
Absolutely. I think that the value proposition that we have been trying to convey for a long time of healthcare services being delivered at doorstep, being convenient, being safer, being authenticated, all of that has now become a necessity. So it's something that people are tasting the benefit of. So for us, this is the time that we feel the consumer behavior is going through a very important shift.
Okay, and thanks so much, Prashant. And so Naveen, obviously you deal in e-commerce platforms. You specialize in empowering brands to get online and reach out to consumers. So how do you see the last mile fulfillment piece, the delivery piece, to be the most crucial component in the days to come?
Yes, it is. So, I'd like to take the fork of essentials versus non-essentials. I think a lot of the conversation today happens around essentials and therefore supply chain for essentials only, where that is the clear bottleneck. A lot of conversation regarding omni-channel and other non-essentials where there is a increase in demand, not as much supply, is also an important aspect, because there's absolutely no supply chain possible for that now. There's been no conversation around that. So, but yes, clearly all the conversation around essentials, I think even Kirana, for that example, has been the one providing the last mile, because the delivery timelines across even the online platforms of portals is a large reason why a lot of consumers are not able to fulfill their orders or actually complete their orders.
Okay, and there were a few other questions that I'll ask probably onto the.
Siju, sorry to interrupt. There are some few questions which have come from
yes.
the attendees. So you may also.
Yes.
Also, in fact, sorry guys. So Shant and Sanjay are both ready. They'll join in 5 minutes or so. And I would request all the speakers to kind of put on their cameras when they're speaking, because the attendees are constantly sending us requests that they want to see you and hear you at the same time. So yeah, please, if we can do that. Yeah.
Okay, let's bow down to the demands of the audience. And yes, Bhavesh, I'm keeping a track on the questions. And in fact, that's why I was actually reaching out to Piyush now. A lot of these questions are about what do we do post the pandemic. So I'm just holding on to them right now. But one that Sandeep Golocha has kind of written out, and it's something that I've been wanting to ask Piyush in the normal course of discussion, is Piyush, how has Lulu been able to push the online delivery side and get additional delivery people at such a time? And what have you done to ensure that people are able to do the deliveries in an effective manner?
Yeah, it's a very tricky question. I would say it's not the problem of demand anymore. Yeah, so maybe 3 months back, people were talking about how can we divert traffic to the website, how can we increase the order size, how can we make sure that we get customer conversions from search and things like that. Now all that has gone down the drain. Yeah, So we are getting huge amount of traffic, native traffic coming to our websites, and as you would have read, across the world, nobody is able to cope up to the demand which is coming on the online channel. Nobody, I would say, even the best and the best, the digital natives, non-digital natives, people who have kind of joined this bandwagon late, all of them are struggling to cope up with the demand which is coming through the digital or the online channels. So there are a few things which have come up to the fore. Yeah. Obviously, when we talk about digital channel, it is comprised of three things, right? One is obviously your tech infrastructure, which obviously means that your channels of communication to the customer and managing the customer journey. Second is how do you make sure that the supply chain, which feeds into the digital channels, and third is how do you fulfill and seamlessly take the orders or deliveries to the customer. And I think the piece which has hit the most is the third piece. Yeah. I think people have done a fairly good job in terms of making sure that the technology platforms are still up and running. Nobody has wide crashes and things like that. There are things which are happening here and there, but we are able to manage it. On the supply chain which supports it, I think people are able to quickly respond to saying that what is the assortment that you need to put in, what are the customer journeys, how can we bring different things, all those things you are able to do it. But the last mile fulfillment and the delivery is the piece which I think has brought everything down. Yeah, and if you take cases worldwide, that is where the problem lies. You cannot have overnight order of, let's say, 5,000 delivery trucks or delivery vehicles come in and stand in front of your stores. You cannot have 5,000 pickers come and pick from your stores. You cannot have licensed people to come and do a lot of movement of goods across. Yeah, so these are the challenges which have kind of grappled retailers, including ours, in terms of meeting the customer demands. If we were to just look at the conversion rates pre and conversion rates post, my order volume would be easily 100x without doing anything. Easily, yeah. So or more. We were doing some rough math. These are all just guesstimates, but there is no way that I can increase the fulfillment capacity to 100x overnight. There's no possibility in this situation that we are in which there are restrictions in terms of essential staffs to come in to pick up. There are permits and licenses to be given to delivery people, and so on and so forth. So this kind of a situation is not allowing us to fulfill the needs of the customer, which the customer is expecting on the digital channel. And this is, I'm making a more generic statement, and I think this is a general view that I'm getting when I speak to all the retailers. Even in the most sophisticated countries, I've heard that some retailers were able to do 100,000 orders a day. They are able to just go to 200 or 250,000, which means they are able to just double the capacity, whereas the demand might have gone 100 times, 50 times, and things like that. So there is no way that anybody in the world can put that fulfillment engine, which is so agile and nimble, that it can scale up and scale down at will, unlike your cloud infrastructure, which I think you can just put in more servers, which happens on a click of a button, and I can provision hundreds of servers overnight. Yeah, I wish there was a solution like that, and that is where the world has to go towards, in which we have to make sure that our fulfillment engines are flexible enough so that we can ramp up and ramp down much easily. And that is the learning which everyone is taking out, and even the best fulfillment engines in the world have crumbled.
Yeah, because end of the day, whatever technology you throw behind your fulfillment or last mile deliveries, the individual person making the delivery is the most important factor, right? And in the scenario of a lockdown where the number of such people is severely limited, obviously it's a lose-lose situation in a lot of sense. And probably it's a good idea. I don't know. Maybe are we looking at drone deliveries? We've been talking about this for quite some time. Probably businesses will start looking at it more seriously than they've looked at it so far. we don't know, or maybe after the pandemic ceases and we are back to normal, we will not have a problem of manpower shortage, and will we go back to our old base? So I think only time will tell. Yeah, Piyush, you want to add something?
No, so I was just saying, people have always thought that we can still scale up using throwing in more people and processes, but I think there is a new reality which is dawning up to say that even if you throw thousands of people, if you have to do, let's say, 500,000 orders a day or 300,000 orders a day, it is not possible without the level of automation which is out there.
Okay, I am sensing a lot of disturbance right now. Am I the only one, or
yeah, Siju, so we had Shant and Sanjay coming in, so I think yeah.
Hi Shant, good to see you.
Yeah.
So Shant, welcome to the. I'll weave you into the discussion as we go along. We're just talking in terms of the current scenario and as to how enterprises are managing the effects of the pandemic across sales order processing, staffing, inventories, and deliveries. So I'll quickly take your views on it. And Sanjay is also in, I heard.
Yeah, he's there. He's there.
Hi Siju. Hi Siju. Hi.
Hi Sanjay. I'm not sure if your video is on. There's a huge public demand that
Can you hear me?
You should be seen. I can hear you, but you are not. I don't think your video is on.
From my end, it's on actually.
Okay. Can other folks see him?
Yeah, we can see him now. Yeah.
Now we can see you.
Now.
Sanjay.
Yeah.
So welcome. Yeah, welcome. So we've got a few accomplished folks on the panel so far. We've got Piyush from Lulu, Shreyans, who's the director at Style Bazaar, Prashant, who founded and leads 1MG. We've got Yogesh, who's the director at Jaipur Rugs, and we've got Naveen, who heads this e-commerce firm called Green Honchos, and our partner in delivering this virtual session. So both Shant and Sanjay, welcome. Thanks for joining in. And very quickly, what we are trying to elicit from our panel was in terms of how has this pandemic impacted your business in terms of a few parameters, right? And parameters like sales orders, processing, from a customer perspective, from staffing, how has it impacted staffing? What about stocks and inventory? And last but not the least, perhaps the most important of them all, the last mile delivery. So I'm not sure. So Shant, Bioderma and your products, are they under essentials or do they come under the discretionary products?
So from this perspective, if you look into, yes, Bioderma and the entire Naos as a products do come under the essentials, because as per the essentials by the government, which is laid down, anything related to soaps or foaming gels related, okay, something which comes under essentials, and we have products in our category which are coming under the groceries or the essentials aspect. Now, from a strategic objective, yes, we have revamped the entire strategy considering COVID into perspective. As we are aware, and actually before this call, I was on a call with the Asia Pacific team regarding the same itself. Okay, and in terms of a revised strategy, is yes, we have seen that there is a quite amount of slowdown in the offline levels. Okay, unlike any industries. Okay, and from strategic imperatives, we have taken a call to revamp our entire e-commerce perspective. Okay, right from the entire supply chain analysis, the end-to-end supply chain as well. Okay, that is carrying from our CNF to our e-commerce warehouses. Okay, and what we have done is that we have listed our entire face foaming gel kind of and moisturizing level. Okay, these products in the essentials category. Okay, both from the Amazon's or the Nyka's point of view or any other point of view. Okay, we have listed it, and that's where from there we have taking up. Now, in terms of revamping strategies, if you look into as a digital head, we have built a 3x3 matrix. Okay, what suppose if COVID is gone for 2 months? What suppose if COVID is gone for 4 months? What suppose COVID is gone for 6 months? And how will my OPEX get into consideration? 5%, 10%, 15% OPEX, and which will be the midpoint where will be when we will be back to normals. Okay, if it is for 2 months, at how many months we will be revamp? We will be gaining back the entire sales momentum. Okay, the loss of things what we have happened. If it has happened for 6 months, we have taken at least 12 months of impact which will happen. Okay, so that's how we have re-strategized everything.
So Shant, okay, I'll just interrupt here to announce that Piyush would have to kind of step off because he's got some pressing matters to attend to. And just to introduce Shant, Shant is the head of digital at Neos, the Bioderma business. And Sanjay, of course, is the chief at Spiker, a co-founder and chief at Spiker. Sanjay, I'll come to you later, and I'm glad that you joined in because I'm going to pick your brain on the marketing aspect of things as well. But Shant, I think you're a very brave man because given the uncertainties that are there in the market today, you actually put in a matrix and made plans for different scenarios. How much of a fidelity have you seen so far in the last 2 weeks to your plans?
We have seen things we are on track. Okay, from especially whatever we plan from an digital perspective. Why? Because what we are doing is that we have from an offline perspective, what we are doing now since only the pharmacies are open and the no cosmetic stores are open from that perspective. Modern trade is not still operating at all. So what we have done is that we have leveraged the offline level to drive the traffic to online at this point. For example, we have dermatologists who are there. We have even pediatricians which are there. So they are recommending to do the purchase online. And if there are any prescription driven aspects happening, that is giving us a spike. And yes, till date, talking about numbers, we are at 100% on mark. Okay, we have done our business.
And how do you fulfill these customer orders online? You have your own digital channels, or how is
We have Amazons and the Nikas of the world only who are fulfilling it. Yes, we have built our own digital channel, our own e-commerce channel. We are revamping it because we are planning to introduce VoIP-based chatbots and the artificial intelligence. Earlier, it was not up to the mark. Then, after me revamping the strategies, probably another month or two, we will introduce AI and the platform so that the orders become more robust enough. Because what we found is that earlier when we had our own channel of supplying, we felt that we are just doing something operational. We are not able to understand the consumer's buying propensity and the journey. That is more important as an asset more than this as a transactional need. So Amazon and Nikos of the world has held us out.
So before you folks joined in, both you and Sanjay joined in, a lot of discussion was around the last mile fulfillment, and that's what seems to be the interest of a lot of the audience as well. Quite not surprisingly at all, because I think that's one area that has lent itself to huge amount of transformation and disruption. So you might depend on Amazon or Nykaa, but end of the day, the delivery process or the last mile delivery process, the last mile engagement process is the same as anybody else, right? Is the same for, let's say, Prashant at 1mg. So how do you differentiate, and how do you ensure that your products are going to reach the end consumer?
See, first of all, if you look into any e-commerce delivery, including 1mg or these aspects, yes, we are not aware of what is the timelines which will basically be to the end consumer. But however, from an operation standpoint perspective, we see that there is a tracking mechanism which we put down into place right from a tertiary movement and weekly tertiary movement tracking, weekly secondary movement tracking, what is your primary movement of opening business operations working across. Based on this, we have a continuous pushback scenarios with the respective e-commerce players. Okay, because this all eventually will come back to what is the number of purchase orders you get, invoicing which you get for your this one. So if you see there is a change happening, first of all, we do a predictive analytics as to how is the current situation and how many number of business inputs we are cash flows are getting into place. Based on this, weekly we do a tracker mechanism, and we also collaborate and push e-commerce players as well in terms of operation wise and get things rolling out. It is basically strengthening your operations.
And why are you not selling on 1mg? I mean, Prashant is here. If you want to sell on 1mg, I think you can have a direct conversation.
Yeah,
Prashant,
we would love to.
Prashant, are you open to selling Bioderma products on your site? Prashant, I think, is on a studied silence.
No, I'm here. Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry. Yeah, if you could ask once more, please.
No, so Prashant, I'm saying I'm matchmaking here, right? Just like you know, the huge inventories of Yogesh's rugs can be accommodated in Piyush's you know, warehouses, which is built 3x of them in the Gulf. I'm saying Bioderma products on 1mg portal possible?
Yeah, why not? I think right now we are operational, so we can certainly supply products anywhere. So as long as they have they're not stopped as being non-essential, then no problem. As long as they can be, so certainly it's I expect our business at least will continue operating at beyond scale. So we should totally do that. Why not?
Absolutely, I would love to, Prashant. You know, we were trying to connect. You know, thanks to Siju on you. You know, to you on this. You know, we were trying to see how we can work with 1mg. In fact, last week meeting, my regional director told me that why can't you look at platforms like 1mg? We told that we are just trying to connect somewhere, and finally, you know, Pujit has got us on this.
So yeah, that's why we have these. That's why we have these sessions for a reason. So Bhavesh, you can draw up the contract between these two gentlemen later on after the session is over. Okay. Thanks so much, Shant, for your perspective. Coming to you, Sanjay. Obviously, Spiker is the largest denim brand. This must have hit you pretty hard. How hard has it hit you?
So we are trying to create products which can sell through 1mg now.
Pharmaceutical pressure alleviating jeans. Okay.
Yeah, healthy jeans is what we need.
Oh, we'll try and create products which will keep your jeans fresh.
Yeah.
So that's on the lighter side. So I guess we are not there in the currently. I don't think it'll be criminal for me to even think about you know, why we are not selling. I think there are larger issues that the world is handling and, you know, facing.
Right.
So we will surely bide our time on this. And today, obviously, we are not one of the most essential products. At the same time, I think, especially in the case of clothing, denims would be one of the least of all products that you would need to buy. You know, it's probably one of those things which will keep on going on and on and on. So from that perspective, you really don't need to go and change a pair of jeans. Only good sentiments and happy times will make you go and buy a pair of jeans. So today, I think we are all grappling with a lot more serious issues. And overall, if you see, the business is at a standstill today. And the entire value chain that the garment industry has is completely deflated and absolutely at a point where you know, really don't know how April and what April is going to bring to you. You know, these are really trying times for our industry at large. Also, the fact that retail and clothing is also the second largest employer in the country.
Correct.
So I started to think what will happen if something like this goes beyond a point where you know, organizations are not able to meet their obligations. So yeah, there are many more pressing issues. There are issues where we are in constant touch with the authorities, with the government, because it's time that they step in, because what the need of the hour is not actually within the realms of banks. They would need a very strong directive to keep a lot of concerns going and businesses going, so that overall, people really don't feel the hurt as much as one can avoid. So I think overall, if you see, the lifestyle business is tremendously impacted, and I think the last to recover also would be our business, and we are mindful of the fact. And as Shant was saying that he's worked out a couple of scenarios, I think everybody in our trade also has worked out few scenarios, and since everybody is in the same boat, I'm sure people are more compassionate. They have more understanding
Right.
of the issues that are facing us, and I'm fairly sure that in a country like India, where opportunities abound, uh, I am hopeful that we'll see a V-shaped bounce back versus a U-shaped bounce back. Provided we have done enough and more to take care of our current issues. So yeah, that's where we are. I mean, happy to hear more on this.
So Sanjay, just like Shreyans of Style Bazaar mentioned that they are also badly hit because a typical retail chain they were about 3,000 odd personnel, but they are using this time to kind of rope in the learning and development process, kind of spiking them up a little and getting all these store folks up to speed in terms of the merchandise and customer engagement and so on and so forth. Anything similar happening at your end as well?
Yeah, so everybody's at home, and so my HR is working full time. In fact, much more than full time, to keep them pleasantly occupied and engaged. We are also looking at this opportunity to go back and relook at overall the business processes that we have been employing. So I think there's a huge amount of introspection happening because apart from firefighting, there's nothing much that we guys are doing. So we are kind of using this opportunity and the time that we have to really sit back, introspect, look at opportunities which we have not kind of tapped, relook at the scenario where Spiker needs to be, not just Spiker, overall as an industry where we should be doing. What are the best practices that we can employ today? So a lot of practices which have been creeping into our industry is also one of the larger reasons that we are in a bigger mess. So I think these practices needs to be revisited. And yeah, so besides, there's a lot of Chintan and Manthan happening at Spiker and at all our peer group brands as well.
Yeah, I mean the effect of staffing is a no-brainer because it's such a manpower intensive industry, and with 8% of employment being catered to by retail, I think there's obviously a lot of government fiscal stimulus that is needed and initiatives from a government perspective as well.
So over here, what we've done, we also try to be a little more large-hearted in nature. There are a lot of essential chains who are finding shortage of people. So we've actually lent them our people as well. So we have a lot of people on floor who are currently not employed. They are sitting at home or wherever they are. So we offered our staff to them so that we do our bit towards the society. Our front end staff are being offered to Big Basket, they're being offered to Metro Cash and Carry, so
Very
that
good.
the businesses that they are into do not really get too impacted on account of people. So maybe the quantum is not so large because we are not forcing our people. We are saying whoever wants to be doing your bit towards the society can go and work at these places. Obviously, it's like a temporary loan to them. But so we are doing all kinds of things to keep ourselves relevant and engaged.
No, this is fantastic because this is unprecedented cross leverage of capabilities within us as an industry, right? And I think with the kind of size that our industry straddles and the size of the impact area is being so high, I think this is the only way we will be able to sustain ourselves through this period and come out of it sane. Because the challenges that will follow this period will be much larger, and we need to be totally geared up for that. I think that's fantastic, Sanjay. And Sanjay, I was waiting for you to eagerly join, primarily because the last aspect of how we are managing the pandemic today, I would want to focus on marketing. Marketing as a function, as a discipline, as a science, customer engagement as a discipline, as a science. You've managed marketing in a very significant manner at Spiker and earlier as well. So how do you look at marketing, and how do you make sure that even though your business has come to a halt in terms of the sales per se and operations per se, How do you look at marketing? How do you engage with customers? How do you message customers?
So I would like to step back and look at marketing from a more holistic way, especially in these times, and what I see myself doing is that I have to be by the side of my customer today, as more of a friend who kind of checks in and says, "Hey guys, are you fine?" So it's not pushing the product, it's not pushing the brand, it's pushing my sentiments, my emotions with respect to my customers. So today, my teams have a standing instruction with respect to how do we connect with the customers whereby they don't really think that we are vending or we are dispensing something. They should appreciate the fact that we've been in touch with them and we ask their whereabouts and their whether they are doing well or not. So basically, keeping a check on our consumers, keeping a conversation and a dialogue on with them, and a dialogue where the content of the dialogue is more, it's more on the compassion rather than functional in that sense. So I don't think that today anybody would be in the right mind to kind of talk anything beyond that. So we are using digital in a manner where we reach out to more people with respect to how to make life lighter, more jovial in a environment which is so serious and so morose. So I think it's
could you
more
give me
to
an
make.
example, Sanjay? Sorry to
I'm
interrupt. Could
sorry.
you give me an example? Could you give me a specific example, Sanjay, of how you've done this?
So we are creating a lot of GIFs and we are creating a lot of messages through our Insta, whereby the whole so basically everything that we need to communicate today, the authorities are trying to communicate to you. We are talking about the same things through our handles. You moved away from selling the product, displaying the products, moving away from there. We're talking about so Spiker goes with a line called "Young and Restless."
Right.
Okay, and what we are saying now is young, restless, and responsible. So that's this how we are defining our consumer, and everything that connects with responsibility is what we are trying to propagate to the customer. Whether it's keeping safe distance, or whether it is washing your hands regularly, so on and so forth. I mean, everything that the WHO guidelines are there, and everything else that probably we would like to kind of speak to the customers today. It's very important to conserve, to kind of stay in the right spirits. People are talking about health and the larger aspect of health, which is the mental health, is being right now not addressed as well. So we're talking about isolation, we're talking about not meeting people for days to come. And in this space, if you are not able to kind of be in the right space as far as mental health is concerned, it's going to be all the more dramatic and more drastic. So I think these are the conversations that we are currently having with our consumers. Uh, Here, what we are doing is we have a huge base of our offline consumers, and we are talking to them through our online medium as well. So I think overall, couple of million people that we have on our database is what we are kind of speaking to. Probably not as often, but once in 2 days is what we are kind of saying. Hi guys, how are you?
See, adding to Sanjay's point, Siju, at this point, if you
Yeah.
look into, it is more two aspects we need to look into in terms of marketing. One is personalization, and another thing is building emotional bonding with this consumers. Okay, and for example, with Bioderma also, we closely have we believe the strategy of influencing the influencers. So on a digital platform, we work with closely around 3,000 influencers, okay, and across all spectrums, okay, and each of these influencers also do have a follower base start ranging from 10,000 to more than a lakh or 2 lakh kind of a follower base, including qualitative and quantitative. But what are we doing with them is that we are building an emotional bonding with them, telling that we are taking care of you, you and your skincare habits, your skincare tips, okay, how home may see. So the fact is what every woman in this industry wants to look good, okay, and apply cosmetics. So we give them some home kind of how do you do makeup at home, how do you remove makeup from using Bioderma products, and for this we try to engage this through our celebrity makeup artists. We give them free sessions, okay, on this with dermatologists, pediatricians. We do makeup live sessions. We do a doctor live sessions. We do nutritionist live session. Today, as we speak, we have done a nutritionist live session. Okay, because staying at home, these females they feel that they may get obese, or they may gain weight. So therefore, how does the brand really address their emotional codes and attributes through digital streams? That's where we look into both on functional aspect and on emotional aspect.
Okay, thanks, Shant. And Yogesh, from a Jaipur Rux perspective, how do you reach out to your customers? You've got a lot of customers in the US. How do you reach out to them? What do you engage with them with? What do you talk to them? What do you tell them?
Yeah, so I think most of our customers in the United States are B2B, which means that they're shops or retailers who are selling further. So it's a very personal one-on-one conversation, unlike where you're communicating to thousands of people. So we've engaged in a whole program where we are engaging with all our customers and just checking on them. I think Sanjay ji used some amazing words like compassion and just having a conversation and checking on them. And I think we've been trying to do the same one-on-one with our core customers, just to check, because I think everybody in this is together. I think one thing that everybody understands is that this is not affected just one company or one person or one product. It's across, and everybody is sailing in the same boat. On the other hand, on the consumer side, which is India for us, where we are in retail ourselves, we've tried to kind of up our game on social media a little bit. So we kind of, had long meetings and strategized on what we can do. And what we realize is that, we have a big story to tell to the consumers, and this is a perfect time because a lot of people have more time than they all did ever to hear and consume content. So we've been reposting some of the best content. We've been engaging with some of the influencers. We run a thing called somebody takes over our Instagram account. So, for one day we give an influencer to take over our Instagram and post stuff. And some of these things have been working pretty well with engaging some of the key people that we want to kind of target.
So, Siju, can I contribute on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was coming to you, Navin. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So actually, we do manage marketing for a lot of our brands after we take them on the tech enablement. So great points there, especially starting from Sanjay. But we've also been seeing that a lot of empathy messaging has begun. In fact, we were asking for examples. We've noticed, one of the largest brands or retailers actually going on their handles and informing their customers that, hey, we're taking care of our employees and we are paying them in full. So it was a message that they wanted to even convey to their, because that's the nature of the brand where it connected. A lot of brands today, like Jaipur Rug said, there's Mass Padar, quite who are generational businesses. They have loyal customer bases, and for them, they're engaging with their customers, and a lot of their brand handlers are actually seeing 2x, 3x of engagement rate at this, because the time spent on handle is much more. They're consuming a lot of content. There's a lot of fatigue over COVID content as well on handles. And fresh content, as just stated by our fellow speakers here, are actually giving a lot more engagement suddenly, where even something like work from home hacks, the funny aspect of the fact that a lot more meetings nowadays are happening on time because people have to attend calls on time rather than in offices when it's not possible. And a lot of them just get delayed. So even brands have started enabling wish list as a concept rather than purchase, where inventory is not as important, but people are fairly happy in wish listing, and there are showcases that brands have begun to even put out saying, okay, these are great lookbooks for this time period. So it's just different ways of we've found a lot of our clients, or we've been discussing with them their strategies of how to create content that is more relevant as well as empathetic at the same time.
Perfect. I think every brand is trying to be up there in terms of brand recall, and they're hoping that when things get back to normal, they don't slip away into oblivion as far as brand recall is concerned. So I think everyone is trying something or the other, and good to hear that there's a lot of effort being done in terms of communicating with customers, with end customers, telling them that you care, telling them that so what if you're not buying from me right now, but then you've been my customer and we really care for you. I think that's good. Now coming to this.
I will just take 1 second. Prashant has to attend to a government call, so he'll leave us at 1:30. So if you can just like.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So then let me start with Prashant in terms of Prashant post the pandemic. What challenges do you foresee continuing in the near and long term? And what are your 3 top business priorities once it is over, once this whole madness is over?
I think we will continue to see, right now we are entering a phase where capital availability in the markets will be constrained. So all businesses have to tighten, reduce the burn, be lean and agile for this phase. So to me, that is one thing we need to be prepared for as an ecosystem. So that will be an important part, given that we are startup still in the stage where we are not EBITDA positive, we are burning capital and we need investor support to scale up. So while the business is going to continue to do fine and economics will strengthen, capital availability is the single biggest challenge that I expect in the coming months.
Okay, and what challenges do you think will continue from what we have today? Do you think
I think our sector is in that sense very favorably positioned in see, the talent availability in the market is actually going up. It's much easier to get talent. Consumer need of a sector like ours, the trial is already happening during this phase. So we are, in that sense, as a business, we are actually pretty decently positioned. It's just that the coming phase is all about focusing on ensuring survival through this year and ensuring sustainability of business models, which in a capital, when the cost of capital or the ease of access of capital is higher, cost is lower, one can actually focus first on growth and then on economics. Now that fundamental shift of economics first, sustainability first is going to be the theme of the phase, the next couple of years, I believe.
Okay,
I think
cool.
it's healthy.
Thanks so much.
It was needed. Yeah.
Great, Prashant. Thank you so much for joining us over here. It was nice having you here. I guess you will have to step out. So thanks a ton once again, and we'll catch up soon.
Likewise, pleasure being here. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Take care, Prashant.
So coming to you, Shreyansh, what are the challenges that you foresee continuing? You'll have to pick up threads once this is over. You'll have to start opening your stores. You'll have to make sure that the inertia is shed. So what challenges do you foresee continuing in the near and long term? And what are your top 3 business priorities once things get back to normal?
There are 2 things that we are focusing on now. One thing is that as we are going to open a store, I think the will be the biggest challenge in a store, because right now once the lockdown is over also, there will be a restriction in the movement of the people. Particularly because we are not selling any essential item, we are in garments business, so there will be a footfall issue that we need to address, and there's a lot of recurring expenditures which a retailer has to give, whether it's rent, salary, electricity, everything that will be similar, because during the lockdown phase you can invoke various clauses like force majeure or anything that will reduce your rentals, but post that you have to pay them rentals and everything, every aspect. So the only thing the retailer dependent on the cash flows. So the cash flow will be, I think, for the first quarter will be 25% of what we have targeted initially when we have started this season. In terms of the planning that we are doing, we are working on 3 aspects. One thing is the cost effectiveness. So whatever cost that we are incurring, we are working on that and how to reduce it, so that our efficiency is also not our efficiency improves. And the second thing that we are working, because we were in the tier 2, 3 cities, we never focused on the online or omni-channel strategy, because our footfall base and the value segment proposition that we were doing, we were not thinking of going online that way that time. But I think now situation demands, so we have started talking to several people, so how to go online from here, so that we can fulfill our demands. Because the logistic in the eastern part, right, as of now, also the logistically there is a biggest challenge with all the e-commerce players also to supply the particular articles or garments to all those stuff, because we have a physical store over there, so it will be easy for us. So we are contemplating an omni-channel strategy that way. that we will be implementing post the lockdown starts.
Okay, so something good coming out of this lockdown, which is good to hear. Uh, Sanjay, post the pandemic, how are you planning to open stores? Would this be big bang? Would you be more conservative? What's your plan around that?
So honestly, I like to be a contrarian over here. I don't think we'll be able to answer this question unless we know when it's going to open. So the strategy would really depend on when we can open. If we have to open say 15th April onwards, the hurt to the business would be much different. If this 15th April becomes 15th May or 15th June, the whole scenario will be extremely different. So I think we'll have to bide our time over here and take it as it comes, a day at a time. Having said that, I really don't think, uh, as Shreyans also said, that buying clothes would be out there in terms of his priority or her priority today. So I think I just hope that we open fast, because which would also mean that there would be no layoffs probably, or no job cuts or no salary cuts, and hence probably the mood will be still better. But if this has to extend beyond say a reasonable time, then I don't know how long will the industry be able to bear the costs of people and other things. So if there are layoffs and if there are salary cuts, then this whole environment will be much more gloomy, and it will take a much longer time for it to come back to normal. But internally, I feel that the next 9 months are going to be a struggle for lifestyle businesses. For it to really pick up pace and be what it was prior to this, it'll take at least 9 months for us.
And do you see a surge in discretionary spending happening? Do you think there's going to be revenge or retaliatory spending, as they call it, saying I haven't been able to buy a jeans for the past 3 months, let me buy a few of them today?
It may not be exactly a pair of jeans, but I feel that there would be 100% a V-shaped response from consumers for things that they are dying for. They want to go out of the house, they want to eat out, they want to actually go and see a movie. They want to travel also. So I don't see that it's going to be. Personally, I feel it's going to be it's like a spring which has been compressed for too long and it's kind of just letting it go. But this all depends on how badly we are impacted. So if we contain the issues well, then I think the reaction would be pretty much quick. But if the issues persist for a long time, then it will become a more of a U-shaped curve.
Okay, and Yogesh, post the pandemic, for you, I mean, obviously yours is very geography dependent as well, which is the United States. How do you see things panning up, post this whole thing is over? Yogesh, are you there? Okay, before Yogesh comes online, Shant, how does it look for you, the post pandemic period? How does the post pandemic period look for you? What are your top three business priorities?
Basically, I've also had a couple of discussions with my cross countries. The worst hit countries which we are seeing is Europe and US falling into place, US and Canada. Okay, other countries like Korea and or China, we see that we don't feel a challenge because we are quite we have a cash flows in a very balanced manner which can maintain. Our global priorities for Bioderma, including India, is basically to focus on the hero products, okay, and also to focus mainly on the digital aspect. Like yes, we see some challenges in terms of the supply chain supplies to the end consumers. That is something which we have to live with it because of the rules and regulations which is laid down by the government. However, we have narrowed down our marketing means from offline perspective, and we have re-inputted the same thing from digital perspective. Because what we see the challenge now is in terms of the future media spends. we let us all be aware of the fact as of now we may not spend much on marketing means per se, which is given for sure. But over when the market opens and comes back to normal, the cost of acquisition in terms of marketing, that could be called ATL, or that could be BTL, or that could be even digital per se, will really double up, triple up. Okay. And as a digital head for me, there's a very clear direction which we have agreed that we will maintain a sustainable spending metrics on our priority list, so that when the market reopens, we may not get an impact in terms of cost per acquisition of a consumer. That's how we're looking at it.
Sure. And just to wrap up this part of it, and then we will get on to the audience questions, to the attendee questions. So Naveen, post the pandemic, how do you see this thing panning out? Where do you think you can help? And what is it that you have in terms of a message for retailers?
For me, question for me.
Naveen, yes. So if you could just wrap this portion up, and then we'll take some questions from the attendees as well.
Sure. Post-pandemic, I think what we've already seen happening is a huge pacing up of strengthening of the tech platforms, more in terms, enablement of businesses. Can you follow me? Can you hear me?
There's a little bit of break, Naveen. Your voice is breaking up a little.
So you want to start on? Maybe it's a connection issue here. Sometime settle down.
Yeah. Okay. So let me do one thing, Naveen. Then let me just take a few questions that some of the attendees have, the patient attendees have sent in. And any one of you can pick this up, folks. What positive could be taken holistically from this lockdown? What are the positives that one can take holistically from this lockdown? Any one of you can take this up. Okay, so, now let's then start with Sanjay. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Naveen.
So tough one here, but there's always a silver lining. The one thing that I've observed is, I'll say that again, work from home conceptually across people getting more attuned, more just from a people perspective, a lot more patient, as well as even productivity. I think we've seen that as a concept going to be much more utilized positively, even when it is not essentially required post COVID.
Okay. Sanjay, positive from the COVID scenario?
Yeah, so I think it's allowing us to introspect on many aspects. One is, as I told you earlier, also the business models would be actually looked at very seriously. I'm very sure that the amount of pressure that we are now putting on our teams to really look deep on costs and deferring costs and saving costs will also make them quite sensitized to the fact that business margins are made out of costs and not out of the revenue actually. So I think these are the two main issues. At the same time, I think what Naveen also said, just to elaborate on that, the whole mindset of working from home has kind of settled in India to an extent, and so we are actually trying to figure out which part of our business can actually work from home, and so that would mean that lesser demand on the space that's needed for your office in terms of physical space, and that also leads to some rationalization on costs. So I think overall, if I have to put it into a bucket, I would say I will look at how does the business model develop to make such crisis, how can you actually create a business model which can be relevant to a crisis like this as well? And overall costs becomes very critical in the whole scheme of things. So people will be actually adapting and adopting many good habits with respect to costs.
And do we see anyone can take this up? Do we see non-essential services like or products like consumer appliances and all opening up after the pandemic is over? I mean, it's in line with the discussion that we were having earlier, Sanjay. But in general, so since there was a specific question around consumer appliances,
I think all of these things would get over. See, the fact that we'll open up would mean that we need to go back to our normal lives, right? I think at some point of time we are going to say that let's live with Corona. It's very difficult for anybody to think that things will stay shut forever or till every single person is cured of Corona. I think from that perspective, there would be a point where all these things will open up, including your lifestyle, including appliances, all electronics. And I genuinely, I'm of a belief that human nature doesn't allow the mind to be on certain things for too long. So I think by the time we are in the next year, we would have forgotten about Corona for sure.
Hopefully so. Anyone wants to add to that, or do we get on to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. So an interesting question that came up was: is there a need at this time and possibly for the future for companies to create a shared pool of delivery people, which would enable a higher utilization of these dedicated service professionals for the delivery of goods and services?
I think we need a shared pool of everything.
Compassion being the word.
No, not compassion. Cost being the main driving force. I think. I mean, if you really see, yeah, I'll give you a small example as far as Spike is concerned. Now we have people who are manning our shop and shops, say at a shopper stop or a lifestyle. Now through the day, they probably would be engaging with around 20-25 customers at most, right? Through the day, they don't have too much work. So I'm fairly sure that if pooling of resources happen, we will be able to waste a lot of, we'll be able to save a lot of such wasted resources. And I mean, I don't think anybody is, even at work, is pleasantly occupied and engaged for 8 hours that we ask him to work. So I think overall, as many collaborations one can think of, I will not say pooling of resources, but it's more of collaboration where we kind of, create a situation where symbiotic relations are formed, which allow us to, dispense certain of our expertise and also take certain expertise from somebody else. I think that's
Even adding to Sanjay's point and your point, Siju, say the mainly pooling of resources. This also internally, I was also discussing with my leadership team. Logistics and supply chain, if there are pooling of resources, will eventually give a lot more relief to the end consumers in terms of cost per se from digital e-commerce interface. Okay, because what happens is at the end of the day, the extra cost in terms of if for example Amazon's or any other e-commerce players, I say the delivery within 24 hours, there is an extra cost impacted. Okay, that eventually is at the operational cost, which is at the bottom of the pyramid. Okay, so if there is a pooling of the bottom of the pyramid, it'll strengthen the companies in totality as industry, and also their top line bottom line aspect. I feel this can be worked.
Yeah, and moreover, it's not just about economies of scale, right? It's also about how to make it as efficient, because training comes down, the training cost comes down, everything is shared. And like Sanjay said, it's not only about the delivery personnel, it's about a shared pool of resources or people collaboration models. So I think newer people collaboration models will come up, right? And obviously the need to invest into them, to train them and create better, to make sure that you retain them is also very important. So a question from Aditi is, what are the key learnings that can help us plan strategies for the upcoming days in the last 2 quarters of the year?
I think we need to have a proper plan where we try and conserve cash as much as possible, because that's going to be very essential to our coming back to health. So in whichever manners we can conserve cash, whether it's deferring, whether it's actually saving it completely, we should do that. And this is a time where we should not be really too worried about how the world looks at you. There's this example, an analogy that when you fly, there's an announcement which says that you first cover yourself with a mask and then give it to your kid. So if we are alive and kicking, we'll be able to take care of people who are dependent on us.
Correct.
If we only break, then how are the people going to survive? So I think you have to have a very balanced approach to plan your next few quarters, and that's going to be very critical and essential, uh, so that you can live the day for you to talk about it later.
And if I might add, Sanjay, employee and customer engagement as well, a sustained employee and customer engagement.
Of course, I mean that goes without saying. So it's for me, when I say a customer engagement program, it's not just the consumer who's actually buying you off, but it's a 360-degree kind of format where your vendors, your employees, I think people who are responsible for your business and the functioning of your business, they all come into the same sphere and the same uh, purview. So I think all of us needs to be in touch with each other and be relevant to each other at this point of time.
Anyone wants to add to what Sanjay just mentioned in terms of conserving cash, sustained employment, and customer engagement? What else would be the strategies for the remaining part of the year for 2Q? Okay, so then we'll get on to the next one, which is a slightly again, we've kind of addressed this. What's the guesstimate when the retail industry will start function normally? I mean, let me take that and kind of respond saying that it's a matter of when we are going to get beyond this stage of the pandemic, since there is no certainty there. I think anything will be just pure speculation at this point in time. But like Sanjay mentioned, I think we just need to make sure that we survive and we live so that the ecosystem lives as well. And the another question was around, everyone is talking these days about the new normal. What would be the new normal in the digital world post COVID-19? And what is the digital preparedness that will be required for the future to face a similar situation? Now, that's a very, I don't know. I mean, it's a question that is mired in uncertainties. I'm not sure if one of you want to take a crack at that.
So I'm sure a lot of consumers are migrated to online for sure. I think a lot of people sitting at home currently are getting exposed to online, and I think the new normal would be a lot more people shopping online. And so that would be one of the few takeaways I think from this sabbatical that people have compulsorily got for themselves. I think that's the least that we think that will be the least of the change of behavior of people.
See, in terms of just to add to that point, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Siju, could you repeat that question? Sorry. Hello.
Yeah, now the question, Shant, was around, everyone is talking about the new normal. What would be the new normal from a digital preparedness perspective going forward? So I think Naveen had a point there. Probably after that, you could just specify. Yes, Naveen.
I think, there are two sides to that in the new normal. I think it makes a lot more sense for the brands as well to kind of try and see if more shift can happen either online or omni-channel, because it's much quicker to turn on and turn off the switch on demand, either through marketing or in terms of customer engagement through the online channel. So that percentage split change quarter over quarter will definitely be the new normal. And also obviously the utilization of inventory to be across online and offline in terms of exposure, which is multi-channel or omni-channel. Now more so because even the consumer demand is there for it, not just from the supply end. So clearly getting the technology platforms ready for scale, because having a website, that I think everyone had done, having an e-commerce site, but having a transaction and scale ready site is where even essentials are now struggling, because everyone thought they had a platform, but now realized that it wasn't a platform that could scale. So that readiness, wherein you can have that infinite or let's say any kind of scaling of marketing budgets that do have a predictable ROI insight through a digital or analytical channel is definitely going to be the new normal.
And there is okay, Shant, you want to add to that, or
Siju,
See, first,
and Shant, just a minute. I am cutting in. Sorry, actually, Sanjay has a call at 2, so he wants to excuse himself. If you can take it forward and wrap his part.
sure. I mean,
Also,
we've heard from Sanjay.
yeah.
I
Also,
think
Yogesh, if you can connect with Yogesh once and just to reform that he's in the call, because because he was facing a lot of internet issues. So I am also trying from my end. Yeah.
So I can see him on the call, but Yogesh, if you're on the call, could you put on your video, please, so that we can see you? And
I have the
Sanjay,
video on. Can you see me?
no, unfortunately not. But it's okay, as long as you can hear us and we can hear you, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Sanjay. I mean, we've heard from Sanjay, and I think the attendees have also kind of resonated with what Sanjay has been talking in terms of the employee management and the future. So Sanjay, thank you so much. Great having you here. And since you have a hard stop to join a call at 2, I would have anyways wrapped up before that, but you can excuse yourself whenever you want. So
Thank you so much, Shivu.
see you, Sanjay.
Shant and Naveen, thanks for everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wish you guys well. Be safe. Thank
All
you.
the best to you.
Same to all of
Bye-bye.
you. Yeah.
thank you. So coming back to this thing, there's also a question. There's also a question in terms of a specific question in terms of from Sanjeev. Although I'm not sure I understand this question completely. It's for Yogesh. Yogesh, what value in the form of safety you will add while delivering your rugs or products?
I
I'm
honestly
kind of
don't know
reading it. Yes, even I'm. So Sanjeev, if you're there, and if you could explain that a little bit in a subsequent message, I'll pick it up, because I'm not sure as to I understand this, and I don't think even Yogesh is too clear in terms of the answer you're seeking here. So I'll get on to the next one. This question is related to. Okay, now this is
Siju,
Shant.
Siju,
Yeah.
Siju, there's one earlier to this there was one question I wanted to address
Sure.
I wanted to share my thoughts in a see before whatever we understand in terms of how is digital moving. Primarily, it is very important to understand where are these millennials moving now. Okay, millennials are no more living in this world of I need to buy a property, I need to buy a bill. They are more into the shared resources kind. There are a lots more commerce channels which are coming into in terms of in terms of sharing properties, or which sharing of apparels also is coming into place. Okay, now the objective primarily what we need to understand and address is on the digital interface is that we need to understand the different target audience personas. Okay, most of the companies are should look into different levels of personas, and how do we address their attributes. Okay, is something which we have to look at. Okay, based on that it will be good that we will be addressing marketing strategies would be or business strategies based on this personas. That's how I think so. From Deodam also we are looking into. We are addressing different target audience personas, online and offline. Yes, we are doing some research across at the permissible means, and moving this consumer, because consumers are becoming more impulse nowadays. We are moving from a snacking to cracking kind of an exercise. If you catch the pulse of the consumer in the snacking aspect, then we can move them to different streams and make them convinced.
Perfect. Perfect. And there was a question around, okay, now we all talk of work from home. You're talking of employees to work from home. Are you willing to subsidize the cost of the broadband for the employees? Do you do that today, or are you planning to do it? This is a question anyone can
See,
take.
from, and there's nothing kind of an, for example, at given junction now, being an employee friendly organization. Okay, I think we should make sure that we need to be employee friendly, because end of the day, we may talk about cost cutting and everything aspect, but other aspect, if you look at employee from a positive aspect, if you look employee being an asset to the organization, they will contribute more in the coming times if we support them in this short term effect.
So you will, because
Yeah.
okay. So because now when you are talking of the new normal being work from home, right? So I guess that's a very valid question that Sandeep had asked in terms of, can we at least enable them in a
Yes,
fiscal manner?
Sure.
yeah, we'll have to. I think the trade-off is, obviously, it's lesser expensive as well to be working from home in terms of saving of commuting costs. So that's another, chicken and the egg story there. But at least we cannot automatically expect them to have all the means to be operational from there in terms of the connectivity. But that's a very small cost to bear, because there's a large connectivity available at fairly at pretty much cheap rates these days. So that's one of the easiest things for our employers to be able to offer to employees.
Okay, I think that's about all that we have time in terms of questions. Folks who have put in the questions and are not answered, we will try and attempt and kind of get back to them with answers with in some form or the other post this session. We are in the last minute, so if quickly a feedback from the speakers would be good in terms of this session, then I'll kind of wrap it up.
Sure.
The best part of this session is Siju, and also Siju and Bhavesh, is that you all have a very good pool of speaker panels and industry experts. Microsoft as a team, you all can start up building up a community where we have sharing of knowledge, okay, on a regular basis. Okay, and probably we also share a couple of thoughts to you all, which is a win-win scenario from both the aspects. So that is something which I feel that you all can gain, because many other speaker panel sessions do not do that. They just do for a limited period of time, and it's a long gap which you find. You can utilize technology and more engagements can happen.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that, and we intend to make this a more detailed discussion series and not just leave it at one. Shreyansh, Yogesh, Naveen.
Hi, this is
Anything
Yogesh.
that you guys want to? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the session, I didn't contribute much, unfortunately, but I think I learned a lot more. So I think from me, it was great to hear the other speakers and what they're doing. And I wrote down quite a few things that I'm going to take away myself. So I think it was great. It was 2 hours very well spent, just seeing what other people are doing and learning. And I'm sure it was greatly useful to other people as well who were part of the session. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And one more thing is that Siju, I would like to thank you and Bhavesh for connecting us to 1MG. Okay, this has become a business platform and obviously we also wanted to extend our hands with Lulu Group. Okay, so this is a very good platform as well.
Well, we're glad we could enable that. Shreyansh, anything that you would want to leave us with?
I was wanting to say that thanks everyone. It was a great session, and I have learned a lot of things from you all experience of yours, because we are just a 5-year-old company. So it was a great learning from you all, and I think such sessions help us to enable and re-engineer ourselves. But whatever we are thinking, we are able to execute that properly by listening to all of you, and we can put those plans into action that way. So it was a great session. Thank you, Suji, and thank you, Naveen. And everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been a great discussion.
Thank you so much.
As key takeaways, the focus is going to be on learning and development. The focus would be on the final delivery aspect. People collaboration as a concept came up very strongly, and obviously, there's a lot of thought, there's a lot of structural things that are going to happen around people collaboration, and of course, marketing. There was a question on marketing which we couldn't take up, but yes, marketing is undergoing a permanent change. because marketing during recession is something that we've heard or we've read in marketing textbooks when we were doing our MBA about, and at least I was doing my MBA about 25 years back. But today we get to see it in reality. So thank you so much. It's been the audience has been fantastic. The attendees have been fantastic. They've been constantly, pushing in their queries. My apologies if I have not been able to make, do justice to the queries that came in. But we'll get better over time. Last but not the least, Naveen, thank you so much for partnering with us and getting this session to where it is. Really appreciate the lead that you've taken in this.
Absolute pleasure. Glad it helped. Yeah.
Thank you so much for everybody.
Thank you, and I hope we can catch up on a sequel soon to take stock of where we are and where we are on a journey. Till then, take care and do well. Goodbye. Bhavish, can we officially close it?
Yes, we can close it. Thank you, Siju, and thank you everybody for joining in.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavesh. Thank you, Siju. Thank you, Naveen, and everybody.
Thanks to all the panelists. Thanks to all the attendees. Thank you so much. Do give in your feedback. Do drop in your feedback, however scathing it might be, because we know we've slipped up on a couple of. We are aware of it. We will make it better, and that's a promise. Thank you so much, and have a fantastic day ahead.